Hello, Katie.
Hey, Nick.
Long time no see.
Yes,
How have you been?
I have been very well, thank you. You?
I've been good. Very much on the move these days.
I hear, yeah. Yeah, interesting times.
There is a lot happening. There is a lot that has happened. And there is a lot that's about to happen.
I think so. Yeah.
So, do you think we should talk about the past, present, or the future?
Well, that is if you acknowledge that time exists. But yeah, look, I mean, I guess let's just see where the conversation goes, shall we?
Sounds good. What's your opinion on time itself?
Well, I mean, time, I think everybody agrees that time is a man-made construct. But yeah, I mean, God, that's a big question to start with.
It's also a simple question, actually.
Yeah.
Like if you're explaining it to a kid, right? Like what's time and why do we care about it so much?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the human aspect of us and the way that we live requires some form of structure. So it does definitely serve a purpose. I can't say that I'm a master at working with it, and yeah, often if I do try and wear a watch, it will often stop. But yeah, it's useful. It does serve a purpose. It allows us to be on time, arrange a meeting, yeah, that sort of stuff. But also, I do enjoy working on projects that involve coming away from that construct and moving out into the time of no time and no space.
Sounds wonderful. Do you remember one that you've been to recently that you had that experience at?
An event or
Something where time wasn't.
yeah, I mean, I guess for me, anything where I'm captivated, whether it's by something that I'm doing, creating, or listening to an event that I'm present at. Yeah. I mean, I guess the most recent experience of that was with the quantum stuff that I've started getting involved with, which is, I'm sure you've had similar experiences with the work that you do as well.
I see you like learning about things too.
Yes.
You love learning.
I do, yes.
You've learned a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, could you briefly tell us a few things that you've learned and why you enjoy them?
Yes. Well, yeah, I guess I've always been somebody who's very curious about the physical body. Like that was where I probably first started. I started studying sports therapy and health and fitness instruction a very long time ago now. So yeah, I was fascinated just with the human body and how we work. And then I guess because of my experiences with that, a few odd things happened, which for a long time made me actually step away from it. But then it was always there nagging in the background. And yeah, I kind of, through a series of events, realized that energy was what had been at play in those early days. And yeah, so then went on a big journey of learning many different modalities to try to understand some of the experiences that I had and was having. Yeah, so, Reiki, Pranic Healing, access consciousness, lots of different styles of massage, including energy work, so Kahuna and Lami Lami specifically. And then numerology, astrology, all the things, yeah.
Wow.
A lot of Gemini in my chart.
I see.
Yeah.
So, how would you explain energy to someone?
Well, I mean, everything is energy. How to explain it, though? I mean, yeah, I mean, this is an energetic or vibrational universe, so it's what everything is made of. It is what we are, what this table is, what this microphone is. but it's everything in between as well. Yeah, that's a hard question to
Yeah.
answer.
I'm I'm wondering how I would explain energy to a child and how to best use it. So I would probably say energy is like a power bank of source of something that you can use to obtain something or to do something with. Depends how you use it. So you can use energy to achieve things in life if you set an intention to them. That's how you would use energy. And you have, or everyone has limited capacity, like 24 hours in a day. And then in that period of time, you got to decide how you're going to spend this time, which is also energy.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, but at the same time, I would say we don't have limited capacity because we are able to tap in to energy. So, like Tai Chi, Qigong, and, the energy healing work that I've studied, Reiki and Pranic Healing, everybody has the ability to tap into that energy, and some of us are more aware of it than others, but even those that are unaware can learn to very, very easily. I think it's a completely natural ability that a lot of people have perhaps forgotten. I think that everybody, when they're born, it's a natural thing, and the way that we live and the way that we educate and speak to children, it's often, I guess, suppressed. And yeah, then often, like with myself in later life, it's like coming back to that that inner knowing. And I think that is why so many of us are seeking something, because we know that there is more than just the physical that we can see.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's finding our way back to that.
So, what do you think people are seeking? Is it one thing or is it many things?
Um, I can only really speak for myself, I
Please,
guess.
yes.
I don't know about anybody else, but I
Yeah.
think for me, yeah, I have always felt, and on some level known, that, yeah, that there is so much more than just the physical things that we can see and touch and smell and taste. And yeah, through the various courses and things that I have studied, and then just random, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but experiences that I've had, I now definitely know that there is more. So yeah, I guess I personally was seeking an understanding about some of those subtle things that would sometimes come in and out of my life, but I couldn't actually grasp. And some of the amazing and mystical things that happened, I wanted not only to understand them, but to have more of that. Yeah.
So, do you believe we are living in an illusion?
Um, that's a tricky question to answer. No, in the fact that we're giving conscious awareness to it, and therefore it is. But yeah,
Are there other realities we can step into?
I believe so. Yes.
Other dimensions we can
Yes.
step into?
Yeah.
Hmm. And do you know when we would do that? Like in what state of being would we do that?
Well, I mean, I personally believe that that's something that we do all the time.
Hmm.
When you are sitting daydreaming, and I personally have had all kinds of fantastic adventures in my head when I've been bored looking out the window on a train, or a lot at school. But every night when we go to sleep, who's to say that the reality that we're experiencing when we're dreaming is any less real than the one we're in right now? And then, yeah, like meditation, all kinds of ways of experiencing different realities and dimensions.
There is an interesting little experience I had that comes to mind when we talk about this. So, when I first learned quantum healing hypnosis technique, I was looking for people to practice on, and a lady asked me to give her a session, and she asked me to find out why she would wake up tired in the
Mm-hmm.
mornings. So I said, okay, let's see what we find. And after I put her in a state of hypnosis, we found that she was living another life as a mermaid
Yeah, right.
in another universe.
Yeah.
And she was the princess. But that's the start of that life. By the time that life ended, she was floating in a spaceship as a ball of energy, and she did not have a body. So she wakes up tired because she's busy doing so many things
Mm,
in other dimensions. And it was mind blowing for me
yeah.
and her.
Yeah.
What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's something which I'm only just starting to delve into myself, but it excites me so much. It's just fascinating. Like, as far back as I can remember, I have been fascinated by past life stuff, like all of the Dolores Cannon and Brian Weiss, Michael Newton. I've got so many books on my shelves. So, yes, I think the bit that excites me though is, if somebody comes that's struggling with anything and comes to have a energy session or healing session, they may experience something on the table, um, but often it's sort of, at the end, a discussion. I'll say I felt this or that, whatever, and whether or not it resonates, yeah, a lot of the time it does. But when somebody has an experience like that, they're actually feeling it, the emotions attached to it, everything. So it's not just someone else telling them what they're perceiving and what might be causing the issue. They're actually experiencing everything for themselves, and that can just shift stuff instantly, which that's the exciting part for me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've started learning hypnosis yourself?
So I've studied. So Peter Smith is an amazing Australian guy who he was CEO of the Michael Newton Institute for about 10 years, I think. And he's now developed a modality which kind of has evolved from that. So it's, yeah, quantum consciousness. So similar,
Hmm.
but a little bit different.
Okay.
Yep.
Hmm. Have you ever come across aliens in your life?
Yes.
You have. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So where to start? Um, well, I guess before I had any direct knowing, I always had a very strong belief that there has to be life on other planets. Like, this cannot be the only planet in the whole universe that sustains life. And I had several heated debates with people early on, and even then sort of thought, that was when I reflected, I was very, very emotionally attached to not convincing, but just, putting my point across. And anyway, about 11 years ago now, I had an experience one evening. I was driving home after doing an energy swap with somebody, and it was about 20 minutes down the highway I was driving for at night, and I kept seeing a light sort of flash into my car, and I couldn't work out when I finally. It was like when the tap's dripping in the background, and you suddenly become aware of it. Like, where is that noise coming from? It was like that with this light, and I couldn't, because I was driving. I didn't want to have an accident, but I couldn't see where it was coming from, so I kind of let it go. And then when I got home and out of my car, I realized I had been followed home by a spaceship. So it was sitting just right above the house opposite my house. So it was completely silent, completely motionless apart from the lights. And I kind of had a little mini freak out and ran inside. Came back out with my housemate at the time because I needed someone else to see what I could see. And it was still there, but it had moved, and all the lights had changed. And then we both freaked out and ran inside, and then it was gone. And I went out several more times that night, and yeah, just that was it. And so then I went on a mission down a very big rabbit hole. But yeah, started reading a lot of books that, channeled, so Barbara Massignac, Barbara Han Clow, American authors mainly, but that had contact with mainly Pleiadian beings. But yeah, and while reading those books, I was having very visceral reactions. So lots of tingling and energy moving through my body. And then I started over time, I started to be aware of different energies present in the healing space when I was working with people. And then over more time, started to get a sense of what those energies felt like, looked like. And then I started feeling like I needed to make sound. So the energies that were in the room with me, as it sort of connected to me, wanted to move through, but in a sound form, which I had no idea what was going on, and I was very, very resistant to that. But eventually, it was more uncomfortable to not make that sound than to just risk being labeled as a lunatic.
Wonderful. I'm really excited to now listen to the sound. If you want to give us a little demo,
Well, it's not something that just
comes out.
no. So, I mean, it does to some extent. So if somebody comes for a session, I'll spend time sort of getting into the space and connecting to that energy, and the same with when I do a meditation or something. But sitting in a sort of in front of a camera, just going, do it now. That's still not at that.
That's great.
In that space with him. But yeah, sometimes it will just happen spontaneously. But yeah, I don't I need to. It's a kind of like an agreed timing, I guess. I didn't expect you to ask me. So
one of the reason I ask questions without any warning, if that makes sense, is to see what the reaction is and what the response is to that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anything about this.
Yeah.
So is it something that can just be done spur of the moment or not? I don't know. So
yeah, maybe. I mean, now you've asked the question, I might start to feel it sort of tapping me on the shoulder, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, it's been a very interesting journey, and yeah, I had a huge amount of resistance to start with, and there's still times where, so I guess there's certain energies and sounds that I feel quite comfortable with, but for example, and it tends to be quite individual. So if I'm working one-on-one with somebody, the energy that comes through will obviously be for that person. And it might come from a being that I'm not overly familiar with. Right. And so there was one time when there was kind of like a bird race, a bird type being. And the sound that I could hear, I didn't want to do it because I'm like, I know that's not going to sound the same when it comes out of my vocal cords. So there's still, I do sometimes still get in the way with filtering, and that's just my logical brain interfering, I guess, because what the guidance that I did get, because to begin with I was asking myself and everybody else all these questions, but because I wanted to understand it, I wanted to know not science is the wrong word, but I wanted to be able to explain it to people. But basically what I got told was to get out of the way, because it's not an intellectual thing. It's not something that our brains will necessarily make sense of. It's a felt thing. And so the frequencies that are coming through will be felt at the cellular level. Sometimes people will have like an emotional response and they don't know why. Sometimes people will feel like they know what I'm saying, but not what I'm like. They'll kind of go, I feel like I guess it's the recognition of the energy rather than the words.
So they're not English words,
No.
and they're also sounds.
Yeah, so sometimes it will just be like toning, but then other times it will come through as almost like a language of sorts, but it doesn't sound like
Mm.
anything that I've heard before. Well, I have heard it before because there's many other people that are experiencing similar things, so it does sound similar to other light language, if you want to put that term on it. But no sort of languages that are spoke within the countries on this world.
I see. So you mentioned the word light language. Is it a language that's neutral? Is it a language that's off the light?
Yeah, well, so when it first started happening, I purposely did not do what my usual instinct would be to do and go and research and Google everything, because I didn't want that to influence what I was experiencing. Um, and so what I got was that the energy that I was receiving as I, speak it or, give sound to it, it's then, it's basically sacred geometry moving through in light form, sound form, sorry.
Hmm.
And then when I read Barbara Hand Clow's book, The Alchemy of the Nine Dimensions, it was really cool to read that because it speaks about, light, which then becomes sound, which then becomes sacred geometry. So,
Wow.
yeah, I guess the answer is that yes, I do think that's what it is. So it's coming through from a higher dimension where it is light. Then I'm experiencing it and it comes through as sound, and then it moves into sacred geometry form, which is then how it affects the physical body.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
see. I'm just curious, if you were to hold master classes on topics, what topics would they be?
Well, I don't know that I could proclaim to be a master of anything, but I mean, one thing that you know personally that I am passionate about is numerology. So I'm fascinated by any kind of tool that allows us to feel into archetypal energies and, so you've got numerology, astrology, and then there's all these other offshoots like human design and gene keys and all the things. But essentially, all of them allow us to see into our blueprint. So my belief is that each of us as a soul chooses what we want to experience in this lifetime.
Right.
Um, and numerology is the window that I like to look through for
Hmm.
that. And so, yeah, by studying our own birth charts, we can see, what lessons our soul is potentially here to experience. The challenges and the gifts as well. It can show us our strengths and what we're capable of. But then also, yeah, where we might struggle and be challenged. And in that, that's actually an amazing tool for self-development and growth, as opposed to spiritual bypassing or avoidance. Yeah. So I think it kind of like it's like goal setting on steroids.
Mm, I see.
Yeah.
So this, I don't know anything about astrology or numerology or any of those topics, but this is my theory that when we decide to take birth as a human being on this planet, we choose a few things. And it begins with, what are we going to achieve with this life that we are about to take? What are we looking to gain from it? What are we looking to learn from it? What are we looking to accomplish from it? Once we've decided on that, we pick a time and a place that allows our goals to be accomplished. It gives us the tools. So we choose the latitude and the longitude. We choose the second, the minute, the hour, the day, the
Yeah.
month, the year, so that it all sort of starts falling into place. We choose the lineage we want to be born into, the parents we want to have, the ancestral bloodlines we wish to run through our veins to allow us to go the distance that we wish to go. And then we got to choose the reality that we wish to step into. Which one is it? And which cycle is it? We choose, just in terms of numbers, I'm thinking we choose our height, we choose the angle our eyes are at. I've had a condition called keratoconus where your eye degree of sight changes every few months.
All right.
Yeah, and nothing could stop it from changing and kept changing. And always I used to get new numbers. I was like, I don't know what these numbers mean, but okay, that's my new number.
Yeah.
And interestingly, my height has changed at least 3 or 4 times after the age of 21
Yeah. Right.
because of my various surgeries and adjustments. And everything comes to numbers, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's one of but yes, I mean, the whole universe is the sequences, patterns, numbers. Yeah,
So, can we use numerology to help ourselves?
definitely. Yes.
How do we do that?
Well, I mean, like I say, so you can, like you said, the potential is there, as I call it, the blueprint. So everything that we have chosen and everything that we are aiming to experience in this lifetime is there on paper. What we then choose to do with that is where free will comes in. And so by actually looking at and understanding that blueprint, it can help us to navigate to achieve the things that we actually decided before we even came into these bodies that we wanted to. So it can help to keep us on track. It can, and it's interesting too, like you said about choosing family. It's so fascinating to look at birth charts of a whole family or partners or friends, because often what you'll find, so for example, I'm an 11 life path. I'm a 3811, and my partner is a 2911. My partner before that was a 2911. My partner before that was a 2911. So, and it's when I was studying numerology and I did my friends and their partners' charts, it was amazing to see how often the same numbers would play out. And it's often, so my younger sister has two girls. The younger of the two challenges her a little more, and shall we say, and when you look at the charts, there's more correlating numbers, so similarities in the numbers and the positions of the chart between her and the younger one. So yeah, and it's called constellation. So we attract. So I'm, as an 11 life path, I'm here with specific lessons that I want to learn. And the fact that I chose 11 as my life path means that I have a lot of work to do around. So it doesn't mean, oh, I'm great at 11 energy. It means actually I have a lot to learn around this. And so what better way for me to learn than attract another 11 who's working with it either the same, or what usually happens is when the energy is not balanced, it's a scale where the aim is to be in the center where the energy is balanced and healthy. But if we're out of balance, it'll be one way or the other. So usually, if, say, for example, I was out of balance this way, my partner or someone who's challenging me in an area is likely to be at the other end of that scale. And so that's when you clash because you're using the same energy in a very different way, or you're
Mm.
working the energy in a different way, or you feel it in a different way. So my blocks are totally different to their blocks, but they actually challenge and clash. And if we can actually recognize that, and we have that understanding of numerology, then we can go, oh, okay, I know what's going on here, and hopefully get the lesson quicker so you don't have to repeat the same challenge over and over to come, or at least to move more towards that middle of the scale where the energy is balanced and healthy.
So does twin flame and soulmate come into play here?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And, like it would be interesting to study the charts of, people who feel that they're in a soulmate relationship or or have experienced a twin flame relationship, and to see, but that I would hypothesize that that would be correct, because, yeah, of course, particularly twin flame would be interesting. And I guess it depends on, because there can be some variation on what people consider to be twin flame.
Mm-hmm.
But from my understanding of twin flame, it's usually a relationship that is not particularly smooth. It can be if you overcome all those challenges, but a twin flame will often be extremely chaotic, extremely challenging, and quite often short-lived, but you learn a lot from it potentially. So yeah, it would be interesting to see, because I would imagine that a lot of the reason that that attraction is there and those huge challenges are there is because you're working the same energy, but from a different angle. So it's at a balance for each, but in a different way. And that's why you're attracted, because, yeah, your soul has chosen this person to allow you to grow, to allow you to actually master the energy that you've come here to master.
I see. I'm curious about something. You mentioned Pleiadian earlier, and then you mentioned bird-like aliens. Do they have a name?
Well, Pleiadian is like a race, or a race of beings.
Right. Okay.
The bird, I mean, and this is the thing, there are so many different races of um, light beings, star beings, aliens, whatever term you want to give it,
Mm-hmm.
um, more than I've encountered, I'm sure. And to be honest with you, the only one that I have a ongoing relationship with is Syrian energy. I, through various things that have happened, that I feel like that is my connection. And so, yeah, Syrian energy is something that I'm very familiar with. And the fact that we've got Lionsgate coming up soon is pretty exciting, because that's exact alignment between the star Sirius and the sun and Earth. Super powerful day. But yeah, I mean, the same as, different races on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots, and even within that, there's, because people will say, oh, is that race good or bad?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are certain races that are definitely more benevolent than others,
Mm-hmm.
but I believe that, you know, there's good, and it's that duality, there's dark and light within everything.
So, do you know where you come from originally?
My understanding is,
Yeah.
yeah, serious.
Oh, so you're
Yeah.
from Syria.
Yeah.
Okay. And have you met other Syrians?
Yes.
What are what is a common trait among Syrians that you can pick up on? Is
Well,
there such a thing?
yeah, well, I mean, it's one of those things, like, you can actually, if you Google, um, you know, how, so it all started with, for me, it started after my experiences. I heard the term starseed, and again had a very strong reaction to that word, of goosebumps. And so good old Google, and I found a little sort of online test that you could do. What starseed origin are you? Which sounded a bit ridiculous, but I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And from memory, I think it was like 32 photographs. And the instructions were to just flick through each one, spend like 10 seconds just taking in the energy and see if any one particular picture stands out. And I got to picture 8, and again, just whole body started vibrating. And I already, for some reason, I already felt serious, but anyway, after that, I was like, okay, well, I'll keep looking at the rest of the pictures, but I was like, no, no, no. And then, yeah, when I finished and went back and had a look, then yes, it was serious. So, sorry, what was the question? It wasn't
Well,
that,
I was
was it?
wondering if you met other Syrians
Oh,
and had
yeah,
any
yeah,
interactions with
yeah.
them.
But then, yes, if you then look at all of that, it will tell you, you know, typical traits of Syrians, Pleiadians. But I don't know, like, again, I tend to try to, in general, avoid labels because I think that it's a spectrum always. You know, you're going to get differences, you know, even within the same family, you have different personalities and different moods on different days. So yeah, it's an energy that I am familiar with, and obviously feels very benevolent and very beautiful. But as far as labeling traits, yeah.
What other races have you interacted with?
Well, so often so there's the bird energies that have come through.
Avians, is that what they're called?
I don't know. I haven't
Okay.
actually asked. I feel the
Mhm.
vibration, and then I'll kind of get a sense of, and obviously I hear them. Um, and also, often, it hasn't happened for a while, but there was a stage where I was getting a lot of insect type. So there was mantid beings and even like ant beings. Um, I don't know whether it's Pleiadian or not, but very, very tall, white, almost have a very kind of priest and priestess type energy. Um, yeah, I'm sure there's others as well, but oh, and Arcturians and
Mhm.
yeah.
What do you think your mission or purpose is as a human being? Did you come upon that yet?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. Um, mm, that's the thing. It's like from quite young, I have felt like I need to know what my purpose is, and I feel I have a purpose. But it's like the more I try to focus on that, the less sure I am. And the more I study and the more I discover, the less sure I am. Particularly because I do like variety and learning. I constantly love to learn. Um, I mean, the things that I am passionate about is sound and vibration, um, numerology, and you know, exploring the new. To me, exploring the quantum realm. So, but yeah, I don't know. Does it have to be one thing? I don't think so.
My next question was, do you need to have a purpose?
Yeah, well, and the thing is, I can't remember who said it to me, but you know, some people's purpose might be just to be, you know, like it's the energy that we emit. It's the I guess even though we're all connected and everything is energy, I do believe that we all still have a unique vibration, which can change obviously as we change and evolve. Um, so I guess really my purpose is just to work on my vibration and to make sure that it's as high and clear and pure and beautiful as it can be. Um,
With respect to pure and then energy, do you think we should follow spiritual practices to keep ourselves clean energetically?
I'm laughing because yes, yes, I struggle with that. I'll be honest, I
Okay.
struggle with that,
Yeah.
which is very much seen in my numerology chart. But yes, I know, and I guess again, I'm only answering for myself because we're all different and on different journeys. But I know personally when I have periods where I am a little bit more disciplined and structured and have a regular practice, um, I definitely feel that my vibration is higher, that I'm clearer and more connected um, than times when I don't. But I also think that it's often part of being human that we go through cycles with that sort of stuff. And often it's when we hit stressful or tricky times that all of that seems to go out the window. Um, so yes, I'm constantly aiming to get better at a more regular practice. But I guess as well, I have a fair bit of 5 energy in my chart, which is change and go with the flow. So I don't want to be too hard on myself about that. I have learned to ease up on myself on that side of things a little, trying to find a balance.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So if you want to connect with beings, non-human beings, how would you do that?
Um, well, usually through, first of all, it's important to create a solid connection to the earth. And again, this is personally. But yeah, I know that I put a huge emphasis on trying to connect upwards. And, after having some of these experiences, like, wow, I want to be up there all the time. But the reality is that I've chosen to be here. Um, and whilst I am, in order to not kind of float off up there all the time and to be in my physical body, I need to be grounded to the earth. So, um, yeah, I'll spend time creating that conscious connection to the earth first, and then allow myself to travel up so that I'm still going up there and exploring, but at the same time, I'm always got one foot on the ground here. Um, I've lost the question again. Whoops.
That's okay. You said connection to Earth, so I'm just wondering, what are the different ways you connect to Earth?
Well, personally, I mean, just an absolute must for me daily is walking on the earth or sitting, lying, whatever. Particularly for me, I love to be barefoot near the ocean, in the ocean, even better. Um, but yeah, so, and, I have been known to hug a tree and, so yeah, being in nature, physically being in nature with my actual skin on the earth. But then, energetic practices like eh, focusing on creating like a grounding cord or roots, energetic roots down into the earth, just to kind of really increase that connection. Um, yeah,
Do you believe in elementals?
absolutely. Yeah.
What are elementals?
Well, again, there would be lots, but I mean, so elemental to me is just nature spirits, I guess, to put a very broad. So yeah, anything, any being that is connected to the nature realms, I guess.
Have you had any interactions yourself with nature spirits?
Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I do. I remember when I was really little, I would often, I was very lucky where I grew up was in a very rural area of England, lots of nature. Um, and right, pretty much right outside my house was a little woodland area. So yeah, I remember I would often play with the fairies there.
Wow.
Um, and then obviously I grew up and decided they didn't exist. But yeah, like when I used to, I love trail running. I love running through the forest with someone because otherwise I get lost. Um, but yeah, a friend and I used to run regularly, and would often stop to just kind of feel into the beings that were around. Yeah.
Have you had any unpleasant interactions with supernatural beings?
Um,
Or something that was perhaps a little frightening or strange?
I mean, they're all strange,
Yeah.
but I've kind of got used to that. Not personally. I know plenty of people who have, and obviously I am definitely aware that you know, that again it's that spectrum. There has to be dark as well as light. But I am quite mindful. I don't get obsessed with protection, but everything is about intent, and you know, so I'm quite clear when I'm doing any form of work or connecting to energy that I'm only open to connecting with anything that is of a high vibration and that's going to have a positive experience. Yeah, but then again, you know, uh, I have had experiences that were not necessarily a negative energy, but that were a bit unsettling, just because it was the unknown. Um, yeah.
And I was thinking about connection to the earth and the earth itself and how little we know of what's under the surface of earth.
Mm.
Do you think there are beings living under the earth?
I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are they? Or are
I
they
don't
like
know. That's well, I was going to say that's an area that I haven't had any connection to,
Mhm.
but that's not entirely true. Um, but whether or not I don't know whether you call it beings, but um, I did have an experience where I traveled underground and had interaction with different rock beings, or just
Right,
rocks really,
right.
consciousness, whatever. But I haven't it's not really. I've spent a lot of time trying to go up there, like I say, and that's why
Yeah,
I did actually. I actually had a conversation with a rock that
wow.
I found at the beach one day,
Right.
and part of that conversation was about the importance of becoming more grounded and connected to the earth, and using rocks as well as crystals
Hmm.
for that purpose.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, but I do know people who have had much more contact with
Yeah,
inner earth beings. Yeah.
interesting. You mentioned crystals, so you carry a few crystals with you?
Not all the time, but I
Hmm.
do love crystals, love working with crystals. So yes, I have a collection.
So what have we got here today? Do we have one that you use
Only
or you
one
know?
is mine,
Yeah.
which is the crystal skull.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Which crystal is it?
It's quartz,
Okay.
and then I don't actually uh remember what I think it's called riddulations. So it's riddulated quartz, but I'm not sure what the other elements are in there.
Hmm.
Um, I bought this one from a friend. I do have a fascination with skulls.
Yeah.
I have quite a few. And that one was from a friend who sells beautiful crystals. And it was actually the first time I met her, so she wasn't a friend at that point. But
Hmm.
I spent 3 days going in and out of her shop because I wanted a new skull. And every time I went in, the energy was just overwhelming. So I could only be in there for a couple of minutes. I had to go out. So after 3 days, that was the one which wanted to come home with me.
So what does a skull mean to you?
Well, I mean, every crystal has a consciousness and an energy, but the process of carving the skull, um, it's almost like it creates a clearer connection or portal to the consciousness for me anyway. So crystals is, you know, I don't I'm not a master at working with crystals or anything like that. I love them. They're pretty. Some I feel more off than others, but yeah, with the skulls, I find I will often be able to actually tap in and communicate with them. So there's one in my collection that actually I bought for someone else, and I placed it on my table, and went to bed, and it just constantly was calling me from the table, and hence it's still in my collection. It was clearly meant for me, not the person I bought it for. So yeah, sometimes they can be quite chatty
Yeah, okay.
to keep you awake.
Good to know. If there was one thing you could learn tomorrow, what would that be?
I don't know, because my first instinct was to say, to be able to have full remembrance and access to all, like the Akashic records, like all past, present, future, parallel. But then I don't know, because that could be actually just overwhelming. Yeah, I don't know.
And as a human being, is there something you're perhaps looking to achieve or accomplish, which you haven't already?
I mean, it sounds very cliche, but I guess ultimately what I would just love to accomplish is inner peace, you know? I think that's what a lot of people are striving for, whether they know it or not. But yeah, to just feel that peace and full connection to source energy.
Is it possible?
I don't know. Everything's possible.
I think maybe it comes down to whether we allow ourselves
Mm,
to have
yeah,
that experience.
yeah,
Our choices dictate what what we experience. Are we going to experience inner peace or inner chaos?
yeah. And, I definitely feel that I spend more time at peace now than, you know, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago. But yeah, it's always a work in progress.
What are your thoughts on plant medicine?
Um, well, I went to your amazing conference on plant medicine, so it's obviously, yeah, something that I am interested in. And after those 4 days, was a lot more informed and educated than I was before. Um, yeah, it fascinates, and also I guess there's a part of me that it scares too. Um, yeah, which is, just my conditioning. But yeah, it's an area that I have explored a little. Um, whether I choose to explore more, I don't know personally, but yeah, it's I definitely think that it's an amazing um, area for exploration.
Some people refer to it as a tool. Plant
Mm,
medicine can be a tool to achieve different things.
yeah.
I'm wondering if plant medicine can be used as a tool to connect with extraterrestrial beings.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And like I say, my hesitancy is more to do with my own upbringing than anything else, which is part of the reason why I chose to dip a toe in, because, yeah, the fact I like to face my fears, and so that was a big part of the reason why I chose to do a journey. Um, I've still only done one. And actually, when I talked about the unsettling experiences as well, that was part of that journey. Um, it was not necessarily that anything that I encountered in itself was scary. It was just the fact that I guess I had to let go of all control, which is something that I'm working on. Um, yeah, it's an interesting area for exploration, definitely.
What is your greatest fear right now, if you have one?
Um, Bungee jumping.
Okay.
I say that because someone asked me to do it yesterday. I was like, no way, no way. So that's definitely a fear. But yeah, I don't know. Like I say, in general, if something scares me, I like to challenge that. But bungee jumping is definitely not. I'm comfortable with being scared of bungee jumping.
Is it the fear of heights, or is it the loss of footing?
Um, well, I don't know that it's either because I have done a skydive. That did scare me, but that was a fear that I wanted to face because I knew that I would enjoy the experience. It's that feeling of when your stomach just rises up here, but the fact that I know with a bungee jump, it happens over and over and over and over. I was like, nah. If it was once and then done, then maybe, but I'm not. I'm not up for that.
I'm curious about the spaceship that you saw. What shape was it?
So it was pretty typical UFO
Okay.
flying saucer. The interesting thing was so the lights that I mentioned, they were the only moving part at the time, like it was stationary, both times that I saw it. And the lights were moving. So when it was opposite my house, um, because it was so close, I could only see the underside, but the lights were quite big, and there was a circle of lights around the outside, and then a smaller circle, the same size. The lights were the same size, but the circle was smaller inside of that. And they were both rotating in opposite directions very slowly. Then, when I went inside and I came back out, the ship had moved and it was now on a 45-degree angle. And all the lights underneath had completely changed and were. So when I used to tell people, I would say it was similar to like a camera lens, when the shutter comes over or I don't know if that's probably out of date now, but it used to spiral in.
Yes, yes.
And then a couple of years ago, I was at a workshop and we were learning about all different things, but we were talking about sacred geometry and the Fibonacci spiral. And it showed a couple of images from nature. And I realized that that's what that shape was. So all the lights underneath the spaceship were in that spiral.
Oh, wow.
Um, and I don't know why that was particularly significant, but when I realized that, again, I had that full body goosebump thing happen. And then something else that I found interesting that, again, was in that same workshop. So it was connected to Drambello Melchizedek's work. And he said that in order to travel interdimensionally, it was something, I can't remember exactly, but there was a mention of a 45-degree angle that's required to travel interdimensionally.
Oh, wow.
And again, I don't really understand fully what the significance of that was in terms of the spaceship, but that, again, I got that full body goosebump thing. And I was like, that has something to do with the way that ship moved or travels, or I don't know.
I'm imagining a portal in the sky that opens up at that angle. And for it to fit through, it's like a narrow window. You got to be at an angle.
Yeah, I don't know.
We never know. We never will know.
We might.
We might. Okay. So, are any beings in regular contact with you?
Yeah. So as I say, so when I do energy work, I always have a connection to Syrian energy because that's my signature or frequency. So that is a regular ongoing connection, I guess. But yeah, the others seem to be more connected to whoever I'm working with. So that depends on their energy and their frequency.
And if you find an energy that you're not comfortable with, would you work with them?
When you say not comfortable,
Like if you're their massage client or something like that.
oh right, so an individual. Well, again, maybe it just comes down to intention because if I think about it, I mean, there's been people that, I've learnt lessons from. One lady, long time ago, she came for a massage, and when I put her on the table, she spent the whole massage talking, and she was telling me some pretty deep stuff, none of it very pleasant, but, I allowed it because she obviously wanted to do that. And she was in a lot of physical discomfort as well. And when she left, the whole evening and the next day, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. So that was a long time ago, but that did teach me a lot about, working. When we're working in that way, there's a connection, but it's also about making sure that I'm not taking on anything. So I feel like through several lessons like that, I have learnt to be not necessarily discerning about their energy, but just whether or not I allow it to affect me.
Having spiritual boundaries,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah.
Yes, Cam. Okay, we're done. So, wow, that was an incredible conversation, Katie. It's been so wonderful getting to know you and your story. Is there anything you would like to say in closing?
Mm. Gosh, I feel like I should say something really personal. I should have given more preparation time.
What topics would you like to explore on our next podcast?
Okay, well, I guess the next one I would like to ask you some stuff because you've had amazing experiences and do amazing things. And yeah, I think everybody should get to hear about that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I look forward to our next conversation.
Me too.
Thank you.